So have you ever really truly stopped to think about what it actually means to be alive? It's not just one thing, right? It's really a set of incredibly complex jobs that every single living thing, from a tiny little amoeba to a massive blue whale, has to get right every single second of every day. Today, we're going to break down those 4 essential jobs of being alive. All right, so here's the game plan. First up, we've got the quest for fuel. That's nutrition. Then, we'll see how you actually unlock the energy from that fuel through respiration. After that, we're going to explore the body's mind-boggling delivery network, which is transportation. And finally, we'll look at how living things take out the trash, a process called excretion. Let's get started with the one thing it all comes down to: fuel.
Okay, let's dive in. Job number 1, the quest for fuel. This is all about nutrition. And it is, without a doubt, the very first problem any living thing has to solve just to stay in the game.
I mean, it all boils down to this, doesn't it? Every single thing an organism does, growing, moving, even just thinking, it all costs energy, and it requires raw materials. So, the big question is, where do you get the fuel to power all that? And life's brilliant answer to that problem? It's called nutrition. It's the whole shebang, the process of getting food into your system and then putting it to work. Using it for the energy to run the show and as the actual building blocks for growth and repair.
Now, to solve this fuel problem, life came up with 2 totally opposite but equally brilliant strategies. On one team, you have the autotrophs. Think of them as the self-sufficient chefs of the world, like plants. They literally cook up their own food using sunlight. And on the other team, you've got the heterotrophs. That's us, the ones who have to get our fuel by, well, eating other organisms.
So how in the world do autotrophs pull off that magic trick of making their own food? Well, it's called photosynthesis, and it happens in 3 basic steps. First, that green stuff in their leaves, chlorophyll, acts like a zillion tiny solar panels, just soaking up light energy. Next, that light energy gets converted into chemical energy, which is then used to literally split water molecules apart. And finally, in step 3, the plant uses that chemical energy to turn carbon dioxide from the air into carbohydrates. That's the food that powers them and pretty much the rest of us too. So what about us, heterotrophs? Well, our menu's a little more varied. You've got the holozoic approach. That's what we do, ingesting solid food and breaking it down inside our bodies. Then there are the saprophytes, like fungi. They're nature's cleanup crew, feeding on dead and decaying stuff. And of course, there's the parasitic strategy, where organisms just get their food by mooching off a living host.
So, job 1 is done. We've got our fuel. But just having food isn't enough. It's just raw material. You have to be able to unlock the energy that's trapped inside. And that brings us to our second big job: respiration.
Yeah, this is such a key point. Having food like glucose is kind of like having a barrel of crude oil. It's got a ton of potential energy, but it's totally useless until you can refine it into something your engine can actually burn. So what is the cell's engine? The engine is a process called cellular respiration. This is where your cells take that food, break it down step by step, and release the energy. But here's the cool part. That energy is captured and stored in a special molecule called ATP. Think of ATP as the universal energy currency for all life on Earth. It's the only thing a cell can actually spend. And just like with nutrition, life has 2 main ways to get this job done. You've got aerobic respiration, which uses oxygen. It's the marathon runner, super efficient, and it releases a ton of ATP. Then you have anaerobic respiration, which happens without oxygen. It's the sprinter. It's way faster, but it's not very efficient, and it leaves behind byproducts like lactic acid.
Hey, you know that burning feeling you get in your muscles when you're going all out in a sprint or lifting something heavy? Yep, that's anaerobic respiration in action. Your muscle cells are screaming for energy faster than your blood can deliver oxygen, so they flip a switch to this backup system. That burn is literally the feeling of your cells going into metabolic overdrive.
Okay, so we found our fuel and we know how to turn it into energy. Now for the really massive logistical challenge. How do you get that fuel and the oxygen you need to burn it to every single one of your cells? Welcome to job number 3, transportation.
I mean, just stop and think about the scale of this problem for a second. A human body has trillions of cells. Trillions. Every single one is like a tiny factory that needs a constant supply line of materials in and a constant trash service out. How on earth do you build a system to manage all of that?
Well, you build an incredible internal highway system, the circulatory system, and the fleet of vehicles running on these highways is your blood.
It's a total team effort. You've got plasma, that's the liquid road itself. The red blood cells are your dedicated oxygen delivery trucks. The white blood cells are like the system's security patrol. And platelets, they're the emergency road crew, ready to patch up any leaks on a moment's notice.
And what's the engine powering this entire massive network? The heart, a relentless, powerful pump that beats, on average, 72 times every single minute of your entire life. Just think about that. It never stops.
And in complex animals like us, there's this amazing design called double circulation. What it means is that for every one trip around the body, blood actually passes through the heart twice. One loop is a quick trip to the lungs to get oxygenated. The second loop is a high-pressure trip to send that fresh, oxygen-rich blood out to the rest of the body. Keeping them separate is the key to maximum efficiency. It's what lets us fuel our high-energy lifestyle.
Now, plants, of course, have their own transport system, and it's super elegant. They've basically got a two-way highway. There's the xylem, which is like a one-way plumbing system that only pulls water and minerals up from the roots. And then there's the phloem, which is more like a two-way delivery service, moving the sugary food made in the leaves wherever it's needed, down to the roots for storage or up to a growing flower.
All right, this brings us to our final and maybe the most underappreciated job of being alive. All these amazing, life-giving processes, well, they all create waste, and some of it is pretty toxic. This is where job number 4, nature's cleanup crew, excretion, comes into play.
You know, every factory produces waste, and the tiny factories in our cells are no different. The chemical reactions that keep us alive also make some nasty stuff, like urea. And if those metabolic wastes were to build up, they become deadly, and fast. So how do organisms handle this constant, critical cleanup job?
The solution is this essential process called excretion. And let's be really clear here. This is not just about getting rid of undigested food. No, excretion is the very specific process of removing harmful metabolic wastes, the stuff that's actually produced by your cells.
In humans, the kidneys are the absolute rock stars of this process. Inside them, you have millions of tiny little filtering units that clean your blood in 3 brilliant steps. First, filtration. Blood gets forced through a superfine filter. Second, reabsorption. The system cleverly grabs back all the good stuff your body wants to keep, like water and glucose. And finally, secretion. Any leftover junk is actively tossed into the remaining liquid, which we now call urine. So what about plants? They don't have kidneys, but they have some really clever low-energy ways to take out the trash. They can just exhale waste gases like oxygen through pores in their leaves. They can store solid waste in leaves or bark that they're just going to shed anyway. Some plants secrete waste as gums and resins, and others just dump it straight out of their roots into the soil. Pretty smart, huh?
So there you have it, 4 fundamental jobs: getting the fuel, unlocking its energy, delivering it everywhere it needs to go, and then cleaning up the mess. Each one is an absolute marvel of biological engineering. But when you step back and realize that all 4 of these systems have to work together in perfect, non-stop harmony, it just makes you wonder, doesn't it? What does it truly mean to be alive?